Okay, good. We are live. Hello, my health freedom loving friends and my freedom loving patriots and all of you truth warriors out there. I'm here with my friend Robert Jones, and I asked him to tell his side of the story today because he was filling me in on what happened because I wasn't inside the room with him. And he had so much little nuggets of wisdom to share. And I wanted to make sure that you all had the opportunity to hear from him directly the things that I was able to hear. I met Robert Jones because CPS became a passion of mine, exposing CPS, that is. And Robert is a wealth of information regarding CPS. So he was kind enough to spend hours with me, educating me about the system and answering my questions when I just, it's like any other issue. It's like vaccines and and the illness that shall not be named, and real true health medicine. The things that you're not allowed to talk about, right? You go search it, even on DuckDuckGo, and you can't find the truth anymore. So I could either spend hours trying to dig and find things that just are scrubbed from the internet, or I could go to this man and just have him download his brain, which is what I did. And so he got me pointed in the right direction on things. But Robert is a great patriot, you guys. If you don't know Robert, you should. He's a great patriot. And like myself, we make decisions that we are making for our children and out of love and the pursuit of righteousness, this pursuit of justice. And really, that's what I love about Robert. So I think if you don't know him, you're going to get to know him now. And I think you'll learn a lot. So, look, somebody's watching from Hawaii. Hi, Julie. Okay, so tell us, why did you go to Central District Health? I know Health Freedom Idaho, made a Facebook event. And we had, maybe 20 people there?
Something like that.
Something like that. And you decided to go and be mask free. Oh my gosh.
Well,
you're wild. Wild.
I actually, it's not that wild. I can't wear a mask. Like, legitimately, I can't. So it's not like, it's kind of like, I think if I'm fighting for something that affects me, it's not as big of a stand. If it's something that doesn't affect me, that's a bigger stand. If I could wear a mask and I thought I should wear a mask, and I fought for people to not have to wear a mask, I think that's more powerful.
Well, anyway.
Yeah, sorry.
I go on forever. You don't have to be so humble all the time.
Well, it's not necessarily humble.
Well, it is. Okay, so tell us why you went.
Okay, well, I watched the meeting previously, and when they were discussing stopping people from being able to come into the building, that they were talking about this make it mandatory, no exceptions. And
they had voted that in the previous week, right?
Yeah, and I had heard them talking about it, and the discussion leading up to the decision on itself may not have compelled me, but their discussion leading up to it shows that they were specifically trying to target the dissenting voice to stop them from attending the meeting. Well, they won't wear masks, so the best way to get rid of them is just require masks, no exceptions. I had a problem with that, and so I was planning on going for that. And then while I was watching the video of the individuals outside, into the building, someone told them to get out of the building because they had a weapon on them. This is a government building. Idaho state law states they can't just make policy to harsh my gun laws or my gun rights. And that person just complied right away. See, I had already addressed this previously in a different meeting where they had said that they tried to tell me I couldn't have my gun in there. So I asked, who told you that? Mm-hmm. Bring that, you're just doing your job. I get it. So who is instructing you? Who is making you do the job of trying to get me out with my gun? Who is it? What authority? Well, they came back and said, never mind, you're good. It was a misunderstanding. Sorry about that. And so I thought we'd resolve that. But when I seen that on the video, I thought, well, I'm going to go down there and I'm going to participate in the meeting, peacefully. I want to hear what they're saying. I can't hear it very well over computer stuff. I don't do well with computer stuff. And even there, they had it on a speaker, so it was hard for me to hear it. I've been in construction for a while, and I'm a dummy. I didn't wear earplugs, so I don't have the best of hearing. But and so I just wanted to go there peacefully and listen to the meeting. And kind of something interesting before the cops came in that I was trying to figure out is they're counting probable causes, and then when they go in and get the test, are they counting that as confirmed also, therefore adding to the numbers?
Right.
I never got that answer because the cops interrupted the meeting.
Yeah. They interrupted the meeting.
Yeah.
You didn't interrupt the meeting.
No.
You were sitting there peacefully watching the meeting.
Yep.
And the cops came in and interrupted the meeting. I thought that was such a good point that you made at the time. Because
I wanted to hear what they were saying.
Yeah, we want to hear what they're saying. We want to oversee the people who are making decisions about our rights. That's why we have open meeting laws, because we're supposed to have open and free access to people who are making decisions regarding our rights. So,
well, and one thing I get from people from time to time, they're like, well, why do you need to take a gun to the Central District Health Building? Okay. I've had it where at the hospital, they're like, why do you take, I always have my gun.
Yeah.
It's not a thing that like I do it to show people my gun. No, actually I like the way that my gun is because it's not LO. It's, it kind of hides, it's not concealed, but it's not up in your face that, hey, I'm armed. I've actually had people not realize I was armed.
When the government disarms you, that's when communism comes in.
Well, and a lot of bad things, and they have.
So that's why it was so important.
Yeah,
to exercise your Second Amendment right. It's so important.
Yeah, well, and everybody knows, and Boise PD knows me fairly well too. I'm peaceful. I'm not going to hurt nobody. They don't see an issue really with me carrying. This administrator, and yes, outside. That was the reasons I went to the meeting. Then when I went to the meeting, I wanted, I'm playing things a little bit by ear. So I'm talking to the security guard.
Yeah, because we pay for security guards at Central District Health to keep us out of our building.
Well, and how does that work? It's a government agency hiring a private security force to enforce their policies.
It's totally outrageous.
I thought the cops were supposed, but anyways, he's telling us that if we go in there, we'd be trespassed without a mask on. I have a legitimate medical thing, and I believe that their policy violates the ADA
and civil rights,
and therefore I was going to go in there. And I haven't made that video public yet, but on my body cam, you'll see I talked to him, and he said that the doors were locked. I said, well, I thought it was open to the public, and he said, well, I can get the doors open for you if you want. If you're going to go in, basically he was saying, I'll open the doors if you're willing to take a charge. And I said, well, I want to go in. I'm not going to agree to a charge,
right.
but I want to go in. So he opened it up, and I went in, and immediately when he was going to turn around and knocked on the door, the one security guy said to the other security guard something, and the main security guard looked down at my gun, kind of rolled his eyes, and
because he doesn't have a gun.
Yeah. And he knows me from other places too, and I won't disarm unless you have a justifiable reason, and he knows that. So he didn't even mention the gun. Okay, so he's just a hired security guard who obviously doesn't know what's going on. He's just doing as instructed. So I go in, and the first thing that happens is the guy in blue. I can't remember his name. Do you remember his name? Randy M. So, the short guy in blue, bald guy.
Yeah.
Okay, Randy, I guess. He comes at me and kind of gets in my face and tells me this is a no weapon facility. I ask him under what authority, and he tells me under the authority that I'm a public servant. Really? So servants tell their masters what to do now, I guess, in this upside down world.
Yeah, it is an upside down world.
And sorry, I dropped my. Okay. So I went in, sat down, and started listening to the meeting. I was actually kind of glad that they had like a little information packet so I could follow along. That helps me considerably because I can see what they're looking at. And I don't know, with me and computer screens.
Open meetings.
Yeah.
That's why it should be that way.
Computer screens, for some reason, I don't absorb it as well. So I like that. I was able to look at the numbers and see what they're doing, and was kind of following along, trying to, I don't necessarily agree with everything they were saying, but I was trying to understand what they were saying. Till the cops came in, and they couldn't have come at the worst time. That's when I was like most interested. Usually this stuff is pretty boring.
It can get boring.
Yeah, you go in there, you just listen to people talk and not really say much.
And they've already taken away our right to voice our opinions or information. So they've already shut us up, right? So they're shutting us up and they're shutting us out so they can do whatever they want with our rights.
Even worse, because at this meeting, there is no public discussion.
Right.
Okay. But they also don't want to be seen. They don't want for us to know what they're saying, to try to understand what they're saying, because then we might freak out.
And they're saying, well, you can email beforehand.
Yeah.
Which is outrageous. How do you email before the meeting to have input on what they're meeting about?
Yeah.
You know, please tell me.
Yeah.
I know they have like some kind of a vague agenda, but it doesn't mean that you know what they're going to be discussing and how you would like to weigh in until they're discussing it. Come on.
Well, it'd be like when we started this meeting or this video, if we told you in the very beginning, tell us your opinion of this video. You haven't seen the video yet, but you need to tell us the opinion of the video now.
Give us your comments before we do the video.
Yeah.
Somehow.
Yeah. How does that? I don't know.
That is not public comments. That is not. That is not having the public weigh in on the discussion. That's ridiculous.
Well, and I think the in-person is highly important.
Yes.
That there's a reason that they put that in the law and in the Constitution, in person.
Exactly.
Because you see me on a video screen right now, talking to the viewers out there, whatnot. You see me on a video screen right now. You don't know my personality. You don't know. I mean, I could be dancing a jig under the camera. You don't know what I'm doing. You can't judge my personality. You can't see my reactions when I'm doing stuff. So I think in person is writing. Come on, we've all texted people and someone got mad and you're like, well, I didn't mean it that way. That's the same thing.
Exactly.
Except this is a lot more important than getting some groceries.
Exactly. Okay, so then the police comes in and the whole thing with the gun, and then what?
Then they take the gun out, and I'd like to, kind of publicly correct my wife a little bit. He didn't fling it around. It wasn't like that.
Right.
He held it like it was a dirty sock. He was like.
And this is the police officer holding the gun like he's very unfamiliar with guns?
Yeah. and so, like, it looked like he hadn't handled a gun before. Like, it looked like I needed to take my gun from one of my daughters.
Yes, Mary, this is at CDH. Okay,
yeah, Central District Health. I lost my train of thought.
He held your gun like a dirty sock.
Okay, yeah. They did give my gun back to my wife, and so that other people understand, they don't have to ID my wife to give her my gun. I turned it over to her. The only reason they would have authority, from my understanding, they would have authority to ask for her ID if they had reason to believe that she was a prohibited person. They have no reason to believe she's a prohibited person, so they don't have to ID her. Okay,
so what about this? I've been seeing on Twitter that people are like, saying, you hear him saying, stop waving your gun around. And they think it was they think either you were waving your gun around or someone on our side was waving the gun around. Do you remember that?
Yeah, that was David.
That was actually David.
Yeah, he didn't know that it was my gun, I think. And I think he thought that they had pulled their guns on me, which, David can be a little bit boisterous, I guess you could say. I don't necessarily agree with everything he does, but he thought, he knows that I'm not a danger. So I think that he was addressing that he thought they had pulled their guns on me. That's why I was like, tell him it's my gun to calm him down. Cause I don't want undue trauma. I want trauma where it's supposed to be, but not.
So from the hallway, it seemed like David saw a gun and thought, stop waving that. And he shouted, stop waving that gun around. It wasn't because Robert was waving his gun around or that the police were even waving it around. He was holding it like this, like a dirty sock.
Yes.
And so anyway, just to clear the air on that, because I think people have that recording and they're making some kind of an outlandish story with it, which don't be silly.
Well, you got to understand that in the moment, emotions are high. My wife is watching me being arrested again, and she's not okay with it. So you got to give people some emotion, especially in the heat of the moment. Yeah. She thought that, to her, it seemed like I would never handle gun in that way. So to her, that was waving it around, because they transferred it cops, and the cop was like, like I said, holding it with a dirty sock. Like, where do I put this? Yeah. Finally, I told him, just take the holster off and please put it back in the holster. I think it'd be safer. Because he was just he just wasn't handling the gun properly
Professionally.
to my
Yeah.
opinion.
Yeah.
But
okay, so moving on.
yeah, okay, sorry.
So then what?
Okay, so then they tell us that we can take a ticket and leave. And to be honest with you, I almost took that. And then something told me, nope, sit back down. That's not what you came for. You came to exercise your rights. Oh, and I don't know if I can see here. Let me stand up a little bit. I was wearing this shirt. Oh, backwards. This shirt is backwards, I guess, on there. But I gave the cops a little lesson while we were there. I claimed my right to be there to observe public officials. I used that right by showing up and doing it. And then I defended that right by not allowing them to make me waive my rights. They had to forcefully, and it's by people's rights.
Yeah.
They had to force me to stop me from exercising my rights. I defended my rights all the way up to the point where it would have actually taken me using force to stop their impeding of my rights. Personally, I don't believe we're at that level yet. So they forced me through physical force to stop exercising my rights. So I said, well, I'm going to stay. I don't care if you arrest me. So they arrested me.
Okay.
They disarmed me or whatnot, which that's what they do. I had body cam on the whole time. And I haven't made a lot of those videos public yet. Some of it, the one of the guy trespassing me for my gun, if you notice, he never says anything about masks, just my gun. But then they take me out to the car, which there was originally I said 10, and this is another thing. See, I over-exaggerated too. I did say I'm bad at estimating people, but I thought 10 to 15. I counted them on the body cam. There was 8 cops when I just outside the building where I was taken.
But then there was more inside.
Oh yeah,
That lined up. There was maybe another 8 or 6.
Well,
6.
I heard from other people who are better at estimating things like that than me that there was anywhere from 50 to possibly 100 because they had, I guess, the whole block outside lined.
So outrageous.
With cops.
For people not wearing a mask at Central District Health. And we maybe had 20 people.
Yeah, well, and then if I get something stolen out of my car, they'll send me a police report in the mail.
But not wearing a mask.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I thought that was wild. And I think TK Marie is probably right. He probably thought the Rona lives on your gun.
Well, I carry my gun all the time, so it is kind of dirty, but it's still, whichever. And then the cops, I like to give credit where credit's due. The cops weren't rude with me. They didn't treat me, sometimes I've had cops that I got a broken wrist and they like to kind of push that. But they asked, hey, the cuff's too tight. To be honest, was a little bit, but I was like, no, it's fine. And they were cordial. They were cordial
in wrongly arresting you.
Yeah.
That's so nice of you to give credit where credit's due.
Well,
see how nice he is?
I'm just saying they weren't
much
rude.
Nicer than myself.
I mean, they did arrest me for exercising my rights, which isn't
but they were so nice about it.
Yeah.
They didn't break my wrist. How kind.
Yeah. They nicely stole my car. So that makes it okay. But no, I just, want to make it, because some people are saying that they hurt me and stuff. They didn't. At least intentionally, they
Robert.
Just did their jobs.
So they escorted you out, and then Ava was escorted out. And I said in the video she was 80 because somebody else said she was 80, and I thought, oh, okay, maybe she's 80. She's 65.
Too, actually, but I think
62. Somebody else said 65.
I think the news said 65, but I think she told me 60.
Anyway, she shouldn't be arrested, and I could not believe she's so sweet. And really is there for your and my liberty and standing for not wearing a mask at Central District Health in our building. And so they escorted her out. And then when they got outside, they handcuffed her. I couldn't believe it. I'm like, what? Is this a proud moment for the police? You're handcuffing an elderly lady and arresting her for not wearing a mask on public property? I mean, you can't be proud of that. You cannot be proud of that.
Well, I gotta say something right
How
there.
Disgusting.
Is that she's an old lady, great lady. She reminds me of if I had a good grandma.
Yeah.
She makes me think of cookies out of the oven type thing. What a great lady. And I gotta say she's got more balls than most men. She stuck it out and wasn't basically wasn't willing to allow me to go down by myself for doing what was right.
Yeah.
I was perfectly willing and kind of assumed that I would, but yeah, I think that she's great. She's awesome.
So let's explain, because I do not understand the bail process and all that. I mean, that has not ever been anything that I've felt that I needed to understand. So I haven't taken the time to wrap my brain around what happens when I'm arrested. But Robert has been through this a few times. And he's done this for our children, you guys. Robert, once a week, goes to once a month. What is it, the first Wednesday of the month? Or?
No, it's the 19th of every month.
Oh, the 19th of every month. And
from 2 to 4 at the Westgate Fairview CPS office, because that's the one who stole my family. I'm not my kids personally, my nieces and nephew. That's a long story. We probably shouldn't go into it on this video, but there's others. But
so the 19th of each month. And where did you say? The Nampa?
No, it's Boise off of Fairview. It's the Westgate by Pojo's.
Oh, Westgate. Okay, by Pojo's. The 19th connected. From 2 to 4.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's connected to Pojo's. And the reason I want you to know about that is because if CPS is your passion, this is a way to get involved. Definitely. He goes and does sidewalk chalk there at that building. And so when he's talking about getting arrested and seems like a professional, that's because he's been there. He's been there for our kids once a month, sidewalk chalking. For how long have you been doing this?
About 5 years.
For 5 years. Do you know anybody with more tenacity? And he's been arrested for having his music too loud or this and that.
Christian music's very annoying and distracting to CPS workers.
Right.
Or the devil. Or no, yeah, sorry. Either way.
Right. So anyway, I really appreciate what you do regarding that, and of course educating me and others, but I don't want it to be misconstrued about why you've been arrested in the past and all kinds of stuff. So
I have done stuff wrong in the past,
sure,
but and I have been arrested when it was justified, but I can tell you, since I've been standing for the Constitution,
which is how long we've been friends.
Yeah. When I get arrested, it's because I refuse to stop exercising my rights.
So now after you got arrested, what happens as far as a bail bondsman and all that? Okay. I don't understand. I still don't. And he's explained it to me a couple times, but I think my brain rejects it because I'm like, I don't ever want to be in that. But really I'm going to call Robert and be like, just do what Robert says because he knows what's up. But anyway, in case you were concerned about how this goes after you're arrested for not wearing a mask in some public space, I think you should know this information. Okay.
So they take me into jail, and a lot of times they want to do psychological evaluations. They'll swear to you it's not a psychological evaluation. They'll tell you that it's not it's to classify them. That's a psychological evaluation. I refuse those. What I do is I give them my name and date of birth, and that identifies me. I will let them take my picture and my fingerprints. I know some people don't, but I do. Because I see that as an identifying process.
Right.
Now this time, they tried to convince me it wasn't psychological evaluation. I should just do it, and I refused.
And see, most of us would go along. We wouldn't know that's what they're doing. So when he started explaining this to me, and it made sense because the kind of questions were a psychological evaluation. So it was like, yeah, I would never have known ahead of time to not answer these questions.
Yeah.
Awesome. You don't have to answer the questions. You're required to give your identity, which I understood from the sheriff's office yesterday, because they just want to make sure you're you, right? That they're not putting someone else's name on your charge. Fair enough. Okay. So name and date of birth.
Don't have to give me your social security number, your address, their phone
number. You can decline.
Yeah. Well, and they already have all that anyway, so I don't know why they push that. But they will try to attempt to get you to do it, saying, well, this is just the process. If you want to get out, then you got to go through the process. No, you don't have to. Oh, and by the way, Ada County Sheriff's Department has a scanner, a body scanner in the jail. The first cop said it was just like at the airports. Second cop said it wasn't nothing like at the airport, so I should just do it.
And I don't go through those body scanners, you guys. It actually, the ones at the airport where you go like this and it scans you, it shreds your DNA. No joke. It shreds your DNA. There's science out there that proves it. and I will have nothing to do with it. So,
well, I'm not smart enough to understand all of that. I just understand there's risks and
yes.
that there was no need for it.
Right.
They knew I was bailing out.
Right.
So why would it matter if, you know, they said the purpose of it is basically like if I keistered something to bring into the jail type thing. If I'm getting out, why would that matter? If I keistered something, then I would be leaving with it, right? So, you know, if you're going to stay in the jail, if you don't answer those questions, a lot of times they will put you in a single cell because they don't have a psychological evaluation on you to see if you can get along with others. So that's part of that process. And so basically they put me in a holding cell to isolate me because I legitimately cannot wear a mask. So, you know, even they can plead all they want, it's not going to work. So I was isolated, which is fine. And it's always cold in jail. So like Eva said, if you think you might go to jail, wear warm clothes. I did on purpose. I wore this shirt to make sure I was warm.
I would never have known that.
They keep it very cold in there. Even the cops know. I was talking to one of the cops when I was out, because when I first got in there, it was all right. And then by the time I left, I was like balled up in the corner freezing. I was like, does it actually get colder in this place? And he's like, yeah, it does. Usually about halfway through my shift, I throw on a coat. And I was like, well, you guys could have at least given me a blanket. It's against policy.
Oh, you can't have a blanket.
You can't have a blanket and hold it.
Oh, okay. So you did not go through the scanner. You refused the scanner. You're not required to go through the scanner.
No.
And I had no idea they had a scanner.
And the funny thing is they asked me to do it, but they didn't ask Eva.
Oh, how interesting.
Eva didn't even see it, she said. So
Julie, yes. Sorry, side note, but I want to answer Julie's question in case anybody else is watching this as well. You can opt out of the scanner, and then you're given a pat down. So it's annoying, but it's safer. So I'm so happy that you didn't go through that thing, and it's good for all of us to know that we're not required to. So you just say no.
Yeah, I just say, well, no, I like to refuse that. And actually the cops, after I refused the first certain thing, the first question and stuff, they kind of got that I was going to refuse all that stuff. So they got to the point, well, do you want to do this or you want to refuse it? Refuse. And, you know, they weren't being mean about it. You know, it's not like so you're going to do this or you're going to refuse. You know, they just said, oh, so you're going to do this, you're going to refuse it. So I refuse it.
And to be clear, you weren't a jerk about it.
No.
You don't have to be a jerk about it.
Yeah, you don't have to. I mean, to each their own. But me, I prefer to be nicer about it. And they're people too. I mean, they may be doing something wrong in my opinion, but they're people too. And yeah, just, you know, nicely. And the cops didn't seem to have any problem with my behavior when I was there, at least that they, you know, the one cop said, no, you're good, dude. Just, I made it hard on them because they had to isolate me and they had to clear the room before they could get me out.
Because you wouldn't wear a mask.
Yeah. So they couldn't have the people like over there. They had to have them completely out of the room if I came in. Oh, and the cop told me I was the only one in the entire jail that wasn't wearing a mask, which I kind of figured was a lie because Eva, I'm pretty sure, wasn't wearing a mask too, but whichever. Maybe I'm jumping ahead a bit too far. You guys can ask questions for me to fill in details. But I got to say, I've never had a bunch of people out there when I got out of jail, like when I got arrested for protesting CPS. My wife's there because, you know, she's the one to come get me, and it's always just her. I gotta say, I didn't know how much of an impact it would be, but it was really nice when I got out that there was a whole group of people there, you know, saying thank you, and that the people that helped out with my bail, I really appreciate it. And I kind of want to explain why I wanted to go through a bondsman, so that people can understand from my point of view. I have absolutely no problem with what happened with them bailing me out. I greatly appreciate it. I think that they thought that I was just trying to make it cheaper on them or something, because I'm kind of a broke guy, so I do that. But there was an alternative purpose also, is if the bondsman that would that I had planned, because I kind of figured they would arrest me, is a friend of mine. So yes, it does cost some money, but it's going to a friend of mine for doing work. So I don't have any problem with that. And what it does is it gives you a bigger voice in the court, because, like, let's say without the COVID stuff, you miss a court date. You don't have a bondsman, they take your bond. And then you have to go turn yourself in and figure that out. If you have a bondsman and you accidentally miss your court date, you can call your bondsman and say, hey, I missed my court date. I didn't mean to. Can we make some kind of arrangements? And your bondsman can go in there and do it. And in this specific incident, I'm not going to plead to a camera. I'm going to plead to a judge. So in that case, the bondsman could have called into the court and say, hey, I have interest in his appearance, and it sounds like you guys are not allowing him to appear. So how can we make arrangements for this gentleman to be able to appear, because I have interest in it? So it gives you another, like an agency behind you more with that. That's why I wanted to go with a bondsman. It wasn't, just because it was cheaper. I mean, it is cheaper. And since I have fines that I haven't paid and they can't collect them, it's possible that at the end of this, they will just take that bond anyways to go towards that fund. So it ended up, granted, none of it came out
towards what you owe.
Yeah, as far as my fines. And see, they can't collect those.
Why can't they collect those?
It's in the Idaho State Constitution. They can collect them as far as collections. They can put it on your credit report.
Okay.
But they can't put you in jail over it.
Oh.
Because in the Idaho State Constitution, it specifically forbids putting people in jail simply for owing someone for monetary value, unless it's fraud. So.
Well, that's good to know. See, I learned something every time I talk to Robert.
Well, and another thing, a lot of people don't know, you can refuse probation. People have told me, well, no, they sentenced me to probation, I can't refuse it. Yes, you can. When you take probation, you are willingly giving up your rights. They can't take them without you got to be willing. They can search you whenever. That's violating your rights. But you sign a contract saying that they can, as condition to not do. Now, you will go to jail or you get other punishments, but you don't have to take probation. I find probation is just more control. I would just as soon do 6 months in jail than a year of probation.
Really?
At least 6 months in jail, I'm over it at the end. I don't have anybody, charging me every month, making me go to these meetings that interrupt my life. I don't have someone over my head all the time. I can take care of my own family and take care of my own self. I don't need a probation officer over the top of me. And why I refused probation, I probably would have accepted it. The plea bargain, they said $100 fine, and we'll drop everything. And 2 years unsupervised probation. But one of the conditions is that I could not go protest CPS.
Mm-hmm.
So I said, no, I won't accept that. If you take that condition out, then maybe I'll accept it. But with that condition, I refuse it. And they told me no, that it just won't give me probation. So I'm doing community service, which I'll be doing tomorrow and the next day. Part of it.
Okay. So we've got like 10 minutes.
I'm sorry.
And
I talk too much, by the way.
Well, you have a lot of stories to tell. You do. You've been doing activism for a very long time, much longer than most of us. And you've got stories to tell.
I've been highly active.
Okay, so now you refused the scanner, you refused the mask, you refused their questions. Psychological evaluation. Anything else that and then the bondsman, you'd rather use a bondsman. In
this case specifically, yeah.
Okay.
It may not work for everybody. The way it works is if you give a cash bond, if you show up to all your court dates, they're required to give that back to you. But a lot of times, if you're found guilty, it's amazing how your fines will equal exactly your bond amount, so they can seize it. So, in my opinion, for the most part, I used to be of the opinion, just bond it out with the $300 and then I'll be fine. But in this situation, I think that because you get the money back. But in this situation, I think that a bondsman would have been a better choice. But I completely understand, and I thank everybody who helped out, because I know that their full intention was they thought that I was just trying to make it cheaper, and they didn't understand the full scope of it. And so they went above and beyond, saying, no, we're going to make sure he gets out and doesn't have to have a bondsman over his head.
But you see, now that you've educated us, we're going to know better.
Well, and you just got to, sorry, I got to get my water. You just got to make an educated decision. And that was, but like I said, I'm not complaining. I greatly appreciate everybody.
Nobody takes it that way. Nobody takes it that way.
Well, I just want to show appreciation for what they've done.
We all are pretty new to this, and so we want to do what's best for our friend, and made that decision out of what we thought was best for you. So anything else after that? You were out, and you appreciated the crowd waiting for you, and you didn't know how much you would appreciate it.
Yeah. Well, I just kind of, I've been there for other people.
Yeah.
And, but I didn't really, I think that I'll do that probably more now because I realize now that how the impact it has. Yeah. It's a little bit, I don't know what you call it, embarrassing or humbling, I guess maybe that would be the right word when you come out and, you have those people, thanks and stuff, for me, it's a little bit awkward, but it made me feel better about the whole situation. Maybe, I'm not alone in this, like CPS stuff. I'm,
right.
Misty's actually probably my biggest contact, Misty, and then Sarah Frank. But for the most part, a lot of the stuff I do it alone.
Yeah.
So it felt good to,
not be
I
alone.
wasn't doing this alone.
Not alone.
I had people that actually supported me and were willing to take time out of their life to come down to a jail, which is quite boring.
Yeah. And you don't know exactly when you're coming out either. That can take a while. So you're kind of waiting. But that reminds me actually of when I was sick and bedridden and in so much pain I could hardly get out of bed. And definitely making a meal for my children was excruciating, to say the least. And a group of people, and it was the teachers at Coal Valley Christian actually, who brought me meals every day for several months. They brought me meals every day. And not having been on the receiving side of, of those meals and always have been before the one taking a meal, I had no idea how valuable that meal was until I needed that meal.
Simple things.
It's the simple things. And you think, oh yeah, I'll make that meal, I'll drop it off. I'm helping somebody out. No, it's extremely valuable.
It's the human connection.
Yes. Yes. And so I understand what you mean, that you've shown up for other people, but you had no idea how good that would feel when you came out and had that support.
Yeah. It felt like, like I wasn't alone in this, I do know God's on my side, at least I believe that the Heavenly Father's with me when I do this stuff, but it's nice to see other people who came out, like I said, willing to take time out of their day to go down to a boring jail. And, one girl there pulled out all the money she had in her pocket. And she doesn't have a lot of money. My wife knows her better than I do, but, that I got to say that, it wasn't a huge amount of money, but it meant a lot to us.
Right.
And I want to encourage people to do those simple things. You'd be surprised how much you get out of helping others. Well, for me personally,
exactly.
Someone needs gas. I'm driving in my car now. There's some stuff in my truck, but anyways, in my truck, I have gas cans and I have stuff to help people. I don't have a lot of money, but $2 in gas is worth, $100 to somebody who's stranded out in the middle of the cold,
for real,
on the side of the road, and it's nighttime, so nobody wants to stop for you.
Yeah.
And you're stuck.
Yeah.
That means the world to them. And it took so little effort on my part. All I had to do is, what, $2, a gallon of gas is what, $3? You can't give $3 to your fellow man. And you got to understand how the value of it. Get rid of the money. The money, I kind of despise money, but anyways, get rid of the money part of it. It's the value of that. And I can afford $3. I can afford $20 sometimes, it depends on what it is, but
you guys see why I love Robert so much, because he's so kind. He's so kind and he's so giving. It comes
back to you though.
It does. It really does.
But don't do it for it to come back.
Right.
Do it just to help somebody.
Out of the right heart.
Just in that, you get feeling it's a good feeling to help somebody.
Right. So now we have dispelled, with this interview, we have dispelled any notion that Robert is crazy or waving his gun around or being, obstinate to the police. You now see that Robert comes from a place of kindness and seeking justice with a heart of love to protect his children and yours. And now you're also more educated about what your rights are should you be arrested for not wearing a mask.
More people got to do it. I mean, honestly, I'm not trying to incite anything, but I'm saying that study Martin Luther King. What did they do?
Civil disobedience.
They tried to work with the legislature, right? Didn't work. They tried to, get their computer educated. What did it actually take?
But to be clear, you were cited for carrying your firearm.
Well, no, I wasn't cited for carrying I was the charge is trespassing. But in the videos, the official person who trespassed me because of my gun. Okay. Now, I'm not discounting that I was told by the security guard outside about the mask, previous to going in there.
Right.
But he's just a hired, well, he's just a security guard.
Yeah.
So the official person, all he ever talked about, he never talked about the mask, the gun. This is a weapons-free facility. And
Ava was trespassed for not wearing a mask.
Yeah.
Okay.
So well, and I don't know what they told her specifically.
Right. Okay. So the next meeting is
Thursday, I believe.
At the same time?
I believe so. Sometimes they move it to 4, but I think it's usually 5.
Okay. 5:15. Okay. So we will make an event on Health Freedom Idaho so that you can follow that and show up. Show up, you guys. It's going to take more than 20 people to change this. It's going to take a lot of people showing up and exercising their rights. So I hope you show up. We'll put an event on Health Freedom Idaho's page. And if you are not receiving our emails, because who knows how long Facebook will let us be on here, you need to go to healthfreedomidaho.org and sign up for our emails or become a member for $10 a year.
A year.
We make it very affordable. So because we want numbers.
Well,
membership strong.
It's because it's not about the money.
It is not about the money.
It's about you putting something in it. What's that?
Thank you, Susan. Tuesday, not Thursday, is the next CDH.
Oh, okay.
We will put an event on Health Freedom Idaho, I promise.
Yeah. I have. There's certain things I'm good at, certain things other people are good at. Finding meetings and keeping appointments, that's delegated to my wife. She does my schedule.
Well, she does a good job.
For the most part.
Yes. Okay. So I hope you all can show up because your rights are slipping away. They are slipping away. And if you're not there to protect them, then they'll continue to slip away.
Well, I don't think they're slipping anymore. I think they're hardly being thrown to the ground and stepped on at this point.
Yeah, I mean,
they've been slipping for
a long time,
a couple generations at least now.
We're talking about at Central District Health. So when we do create that event, I'll post it in these I'll post it in these chat threads. Good, Paul. I have a feeling you might need to know.
Is that Scott's?
Yeah. Yeah.
Scott's awesome.
I know. They're great guys.
Oh, and I'm off Facebook, so.
Oh yeah. Facebook kicked him off.
Yeah. Well, and everybody keeps telling me to do another account, but I hear a bunch of people having problems with it. And to be honest with you, I'm so tech stupid. I don't know how to even set up an email. My wife's going to show me though, so you guys don't have to send me instructional videos. People do that. But I probably will get back on Facebook. I'm just kind of putting it off. I don't mind not having Facebook.
Yeah, honestly.
If it wasn't for the CPS stuff, I'd probably just stay off Facebook.
Yeah. And then when we get kicked off, it'll go out on our email list about where we're going. And we have accounts set up here and there, but we just, I'm not going to fight to stay on Facebook. Like I'm so over it. I have a new site. If you text me, I'll give it to you. Okay. This person says, I have a new site. So maybe we'll need to hear about that. Will you post the dates he goes to CPS?
Oh, the 19th.
It's always the 19th.
Yeah, it's always the 19th.
2 to 4.
Well, and I'll go ahead and explain the reasoning for it always being the 19th, and no matter what day of the week it is because that was the date that they took my sister's kids, which, by the way, I became a licensed foster care provider to get, but they refused me because I reported sexual abuse in the foster home. But like I said, you don't have time to go into all that. But that's the reason it's the 19th, because they took them on the 19th of December. Therefore, I decided that was a good time to do it. And 2 to 4 is in the middle of the day. A lot of caseworkers leave early. So kind of the purpose of this protest is actually to reach the caseworkers, because I don't believe they know the harm that they are causing to these children. And I want them to understand that. So hopefully they could stop it or at least reduce it some. That's why it's in the back. It's not right out on Fairview where the public is. People are criticized because why are you way back there? The public's out front. Because I'm trying to reach those caseworkers and they hide them in the corner. So the best way I can do that is where we chalk and where we do our protest.
I appreciate you.
Thank you. I appreciate you. You do a lot. You've done a lot with CPS. This lady is the first one that I didn't think she could take it, because there's a lot of really hard stuff in CPS. If you dig, I stopped digging when I got to the crazy stuff. And I thought, honestly, when I first met with her, I didn't think she'd be able to handle it, because there is a lot of stuff there. I've done the same thing with lots of people. And to tell you the truth, the time I met Misty, I kind of thought, well, I don't mind educating. Maybe something will come out of it. But to be honest with you, no offense, Misty, but I didn't think you could take it.
Oh, no, I'm emotional and I have a bleeding heart.
Yeah, and so I was like, well, I educated her. I hope it doesn't hurt her too much, but I don't think I have an ally. Now she's become one of the best allies in this. So.
And then I came back for more.
Yeah.
I had to recover. I did, and do some digging, and then I'd come back for more because our children are worth it.
Well, and
our children are worth facing the hard stuff.
You didn't just like take my word for it. You actually like researched it and came back to me with questions. So I could prove my what I was saying. You know, I didn't necessarily have the link to prove it or the government specific statistic, and you're great at that. So you were able to find. You've given me more legitimacy, in my opinion, because you can prove better than I can to other people.
When I found out that they had lost over 100,000 children in a what 5-year period?
Almost 100,000.
Right, almost. And they say 60,000 something is.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, 60,000 something was runaways or missing, and then another 50,000 something they just lost, and so it ended up being like a little over.
Yeah, so it's almost 2,000 kids a month. CPS just loses, and that's acceptable because it's a low percentage because they have over 400,000 kids in foster care. So if they lose 2,000 a month, it's just they're bean counters. They don't care.
Can you imagine? Children. Can you imagine? We're being told that our children are safer in foster care,
unless you read the facts,
than with their own families. And I'm not saying that abuse doesn't happen.
No, it does.
It does happen.
And abuse most of the time, CPS doesn't do anything.
And they take children for reasons of neglect, ridiculous reasons. Anyway, I could get off on this, but just so you know, I could go on.
This is not supposed to be a video.
No, not about CPS.
It's hard not to. Sorry,
especially when we get together.
Well, and just me in general. Sorry, that's my passion. So I relate stuff back to there. So if you can't stand hearing about CPS, you might not want to talk to me. Over
100,000 children, just over in a 5-year time span, missing or lost.
I was wrong. It was almost 120,000 in 5 years.
It's absolutely insane. So that's why I'm thankful for people, heroes like Robert, who have not let it go like a dog with a bone. You did not let it go.
I've always been tenacious. I may not be that strong. I may not have a lot of power, but I'll hold on.
Which I appreciate that. Okay, you guys, that was it. I just really wanted to get that information out to you. I know it's a long video. Maybe we'll clip it and put it on YouTube or make it a little bit smaller, and so it's shareable. I'll talk to you later, friends. Bye.